talk about is this idea of annotations. And what we're going to talk about is as you're moving forward in next semester, or if you're going to go to college, and even for those people that might be doing a trade school or welding or whatever it might be, you're going to need to read a lot of information, okay? And then you're going to have to do something with that information. And as we move forward into our next units for next semester, which in English 102 is a lot of research papers and really understanding the idea of coming up with a research project, you're going to be reading multiple nonfiction articles or research articles. And what I want to do with that is give you some tools on how to actually remember those articles, be able to quickly recall the information that you read, and have a little bit of a skill set so that when you go to college and you have to do all these articles, you have kind of a tool to do that. So my first question is to you is how many people have had to annotate in an English class before? So raise your hand if you have to do that. Okay. And was there a specific way that your teachers wanted you to do it? Or what was the direction for that? You had a specific way, Lindsay? Or no?
Actually, no.
So what did the teachers say? Like, how do you annotate? What was their parameters? Or how did they check? What did you guys do? Okay, what did you have to do? So highlight important key. Did they have like a color thing they had to do, or a way you had, or just annotate this read this article and annotate it, right? Tell us what's important. Look for key stuff. Okay, so this method of left-right is going to give us kind of a clear way to do annotations, and it works with what we do when we do our thoughts and questions and epiphanies. And we're going to continue to do those thoughts and questions, and you guys are going to continue to drive our class. Your questions, your ideas, your thoughts are what's important. So this is going to help you kind of work through those ideas. Okay. And why we call it left-right is because you're going to have two sides, literally, of a paper. And I'm going to give you some examples. But you're going to have the left side and you're going to have the right side, okay? And theoretically, what you're going to think about is the left side is what the author left for you. So whether it is a nonfiction piece or a fiction piece, what did the author leave within the text for you to find? Okay, it could also be, even if you're looking at a science textbook, right? What does the author need you, what information do they need you to get? What type of biology cells are they looking at? Whatever it might be, what did the author do for you? But we're gonna focus more on English and that kind of stuff because that's what we do. But what did the author leave for you to find? What is the author arguing? What is their claim in this actual article, right? What are their thematic ideas? This is where you're looking for, did they have the simile? Did they have the metaphor? Are they using foreshadowing? Is this a reference to Shakespeare? Whatever it might be, what are the themes that are in this actual article? And then you're going to look for the evidence. Does it have the emotional appeal? Does it have logic? Is the person have a PhD? Or are they a scientist? Is that why they are writing the article? Okay, what are they doing when they write the article? This is all that the author is doing in this piece. Like, what is the author trying to get you to understand? So that's the left side. If I know that when Mr. Kowadeski was teaching, he went over a little bit of this soapstone. Did he go step by step? A little bit. Okay, we'll briefly do that. But what I want you to think about is the left side is the author's viewpoint. And when I was reading these essays that you guys wrote about your books or your critical analysis of these books, what I found that a lot of people did is they would summarize the book. So they would say such and such character in The Hobbit was looking to find and talk about greed versus integrity or whatever it might be. Or Hemingway is talking about the whale as a metaphor for blah, blah, blah. But most people were summarizing and they weren't using the author's name. And that's what we want to do. We want to give credit to the author. What is the author doing in the story? So when you write your essays or you write these small responses, you have to give credit to the author. So Ken Liu is using paper origami to represent cultural relevance back to China. Ken Liu talks about a little boy's story and how being of mixed race is important or isn't in his story, right? So we're talking about what is the author doing. That's what we're doing on the left side. Then when we move on to the right side, what is the right side? The right side is all of your thoughts. you're wondering, I wonder if I'm right because, okay? And the right side becomes those types of questions and thoughts and epiphanies, all the things that we're doing. So what connections can you make to the story? What is the context? Is it similar to something that's going on today? If I'm reading 1984 or Animal Farm, is the propaganda just like propaganda we see today? Does it look like social media? What are the kind of things that connect to the story, right? And then maybe, like Gianna, who did it awesome, maybe you don't like the story. Maybe you're like, you know what? This story's terrible. So that's where you would put whether or not you agree or disagree on the right side. It's all those thoughts and questions and connections that you've made to the story, okay? So you have the right side, the left side for your author, what the author has left behind, and the right side for what you think is right or what you're doing with your own thoughts and questions, okay? So you're literally breaking it down into two pieces. Going into college, everything is going to be posted online. The college professors are not handing you a bunch of Xerox papers. That's just not how it works anymore. So I want us to think through over the next couple of weeks, what are we going to do? How are we going to do this with technology? Are we going to do it on a Google Doc? Are we going to how do we create this same type of opportunity, but online? And that's where I need your help as a class and your voices, because you're the ones that have to make this work. So what best way can we do that? So as we're doing this, I want you to think about how would you do this in an online document? If we give you this online, how are you going to break it down into left and right? Okay? Does anybody have any questions about what we're going to do here? So you're going to read this article silently, and then you're going to create your own left and right annotations. And then when we do the lottery on Wednesday, you're going to do the same thing with the fiction. Okay, this is nonfiction, and that one's going to be fiction. Okay? Anyone have questions? So athletic that regardless. Now.
He's 100 pounds lighter now. But he also got he's moving quick. He's at everyone's legs. He can go straight for attack. The technique is pretty good.
This guy could be like he's like a speedball.
But also, okay, yes, all of those things are valid. But what I need you to actually do is I need you to read the article to figure out what is it really about the logistics of the football, or is it about something, right? And that's where you put the left side. But all those questions that you have, like you might be better at tackling because you have their legs. You might have be the worst athlete. I don't think the article is really about the athletics.
Yeah, that's gonna get us confused because
right. So I want you to quietly read those and write your answer. Okay. All right. So this is the point where we're just reading it. Okay. All right. Look at this. Thank you. Always fun. Are you going to break it down left and right, or are you going to break it down?
I'm gonna come too.
Oh, okay. Breaking it down. Where if you break it down this, can you guys please silently read this article so that we can? The first, at least, the next 7 minutes should be either you silently reading it, writing your left and right, or it should be me discussing with you, but it shouldn't just be like a free-for-all. So everybody asks to do in class time, and here's our, can you grab that? Everybody asks to do in class time. Here's our example of if we should or not. So here's my question: if we break it down this way, right? Then how are you going to know what's the author's, and how are you going to know what's yours? Like, how do you break this down then? So all these would be right side ideas, and you need left side too. Does that make sense? Because it's you want to have that. Again, we are silently reading. This is great for my video because it shows what a real class is like. This crew.
I was looking at Bobby Martin.
Doesn't matter. Okay. So when we do this, so if we just do our thoughts, question, epiphanies, then we're not getting the author's role. So that's why it's broken down that way. So you can do it this way, but I would add another column or something that talks about author. Does that make sense? What's the message? I guess
The message is like,
you guys,
even though he's only like half the size of someone, he's still able to play like football just the same way as everyone else.
That's what the message is about this article.
Well, that's what like the beginning part is.
Because you didn't know.
Well, I was starting to say I got too much.
Why do you think the guy's even writing the article? It's just about that the guy's a great player.
Well,
like he's writing it, you know, he's got his unfortunate.
None of that is what it's about. So I want you guys to actually read it and try to figure it out. Okay? If you're not reading it, you're not going to get the gist of the article. It's not just about a guy with no legs and how great it is that he plays. There's a point to this article. So I want you guys to figure out what is the actual point. What is the author doing with this article? He's not telling you this like inspiring story about this guy. He has a purpose and a persuasion technique in this article that you have to get through. Has anyone actually ever read this article? Or is this new? No? Okay. So here's my question. So this is interesting, I think, to look at. Shh, boys, please just read the article. I like how every boy turned because they knew it was them. So this is interesting. So you choose to do it annotating, and you were like, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm curious why.
No room on the thing for if there was, I would have done it on the paper. I prefer to do it on the paper.
Oh, you do? I was just curious what people prefer. Do you rather do it on the
I
paper?
like doing it on the paper. I've always liked it. There's no room.
Yeah. So that I guess that's like a problem solving thing in terms of like a lot of times there probably won't be room, right?
Yeah.
And then what do you think if we did this online? How would we? What do you guys have any ideas?
I've never annotated online. You can do
I only did.
you can like literally annotate online and leave a note and then
The back. Oh, that's not my phone. Just leave it there.
like you know you can like annotate online where you can like put the note in. Maybe if we did like different colors like blue versus red, like how she did on her paper. If you did that online, that would make sense.
I've done it in a class before. It wasn't this kind of thing, but it was like, well, kind of it was. It was just certain colors, like pink or blue. And the pink is yours, and then the blue is like the author's. Even the authors, you could do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do
that was
you-
not on the margins. You just color coded.
Yeah, or could you put it in Google Docs maybe and add the comments like we do? Or I don't know if you can. If it's you might have to do like a PDF
Yeah, like I
or
don't know if you
something.
can comment on yourself.
Well, you
Yeah.
can switch to editing mode.
Edit.
Or switch to editing, commenting, reviewing on your Google account.
Okay, yeah, so that's what we have to kind of work through is how are we going to do this with technology? Because it's easy to kind of figure out like, oh, I'm going to do this. You can always,
And you can also leave it up to people's content, like
Yeah.
what they want to do. Because I feel like I would prefer to color code everything.
yeah, and that's why I don't want it to be, the idea is not that I'm dictating how you take the notes, is that you have these two kind of areas that you're looking at the author and that you are also looking at your own ideas. So that at some point, however you want to do it, if it's color coded, if it's the other way, that you end up with a method, right? So, okay, again, silent reading. We're reading the article. Okay. These people actually read it. Oh, look. What did you have left versus right? Like, what do you think was the idea of this author? What's he trying to do?
So what I kind of did a more broad question was just decide even the rules for those with disadvantages to even out the playing field. Like why should the ref allow the exceptions to the rules?
And does he then?
I mean he didn't, but they had to
So-
go to the officials to overrule the other guy's ruling.
Okay, so they had to keep going in order to think. So what do you think? Like if you're the ref out there and the guy's like, well, I don't even have feet. Do you think the ref handled it well, or like?
I don't know if he handled it well, but was he allowed to just change the rules for one kid?
Right? No, he's not. I think that's the point.
Well, they
is
said
that
they were
kind
doing
of,
it for his safety too. Like,
What if
they
this is
couldn't be serious about that. Like,
but if you have no feet, how is? I mean, it's probably a pretty safe
How are you
guy.
cutting up with the other kids?
trampled, like it's football.
what if he's just
Yeah, but
They not go to the ground.
You don't have to leverage.
But they're not saying he can't play because he has no legs and he's short. They're saying you just have to have shoes on.
What was that mean?
Yeah, that's it.
if he just this one kid that you think like if they might try to start something where it's like that it becomes a rule. But like if you are handicapped and you are playing, like there's exceptions.
Class.
You know?
Again, please.
I don't know if they're just making it trying to get it just for Bobby and it's it. Because if it
Right.
was just for Bobby, I feel like the refs can't just make an exception just for one kid.
Right. Or maybe it's also, if you think about it, sometimes it's something that's just never come up, right?
Yeah.
Like,
How
like,
many kids before?
yeah, how many kids are, like, I think, yes, if you're looking at all things considered, and it is definitely the safety, right? Like, we don't want kids out there playing without shoes, or, like, you could really get hurt. But it's like, this guy's like, I don't even have legs, so how are we doing that? So then it becomes kind of, I don't know. That's a good point. Those are the kind of thoughts. Like, then are we discriminating against that one person? Because it's like, well, we know we can't.
He tied his shoes to his belt, and they still didn't let him play. So
It just doesn't make any sense.
Oh, they didn't. Yeah, there you go then. He had. Where does it? Yeah, that on his feet.
forced him to take it off his belt.
They told him to say they said it was unidentified.
Oh, well, okay, so here's an interesting, like, now they're not saying safety, now they're saying it's undignified. So do you have a definition of dignified? You know what I mean? Does football have to be dignified? Like, that's where it gets real messy, right? So it's undignified. Well, then what is dignified? I didn't know that football came with dignified etiquette, right? That's where you would, like, maybe if you're that kid, go nuts. Because you're like, well, tell me, where is everyone else being dignified? And when we punch someone, is that dignified? You know, so that's a really interesting point
It's
there.
unsafe. I mean, like, he's choosing to go out there and do it.
Right.
Like, he's wrestling too. He's doing track.
And he got the doctor's approval.
Well, and I think we can all agree with there is an element of, as a ref, safety is super important, right? So if we're looking at that, yeah, safety. But then when they come back and go, well, it's just undignified. Well, maybe you just don't like that.
The rest of they were doing it for his safety. Coach said, "White clear, Bobby had blah blah blah."
Yeah.
Clearance from doctors, but the rest kept saying, "We can show you the rule."
Where does he start? What position does he start? Where does he start?
Yeah, the coach talked to the refs about it.
Yeah. Well, and then eventually they have to keep like a letter to make sure, you know, here's my letter, here's my accommodation. So, you know, I don't know. So what do you think then, what is the author trying to do? What is their point in this piece? What do you guys think? So we know kind of what our thoughts are on that, all that safety, but like, what is the author's view here? What do you guys think? Like, look at the last sentence.
Maybe that like they should have more discipline like so the refs know what to do for that type of stuff.
Yeah, should they make more exceptions for?
Yeah, well, look at the last two words. What is it? Okay, again, please. Shh. I can't talk or hear anybody, so I know you can't. And you guys should have tons of stuff written, and I don't see anything, so I'm waiting to see. Okay, well, I'm gonna analyze it for a grade. That's what I'm gonna do at this point.
So looking at the last sentence, he's kind of really talking about Bobby anymore. He's saying like back to reffing without brains.
Right, without brains. So what is his commentary then on those refs?
It's kind of going unpunished.
Yeah, he thinks the refs are like, it's like, come on, let's be logical, right? So I think he is trying to persuade you, like, that yes, there are rules and there's a reason, but also maybe at some point we have to be realistic about those rules, right? So I think he's trying to persuade people to be like, this is ridiculous. That's personally, but I don't know. That's what maybe we find evidence or we don't, right? And that's where you go with that left and right kind of ideas.